Okay, hi, Bookish besties. This is a wee emergency. I'm calling right now, emergency meeting. Hello, sit down, join me because I just finished Sunrise on the Reaping. So whatever you're doing, stop, get cozy, get comfy. I literally finished it 15 minutes ago. I'm literally in my PJs, like no makeup. This is me, all natural. Y'all are welcome. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk my initial thoughts and just a reaction to the ending of this book. What was y'all's initial thoughts when you first finished it? Let us know in the comments below. There will be spoilers because, dear God, what was this book? Okay, let's go. Let's go. Sunrise on the Reaping, Haymitch's story. Can we just, whoo, wow, okay. Where to even begin? Where to even begin with this book? So a couple things. We already knew a lot of Haymitch's fate. We got all of Haymitch's backstory essentially in Catching Fire, chapter 14. And we also know like everyone Haymitch has ever loved has died. Those are things we knew going into this book. So we were should have already been mentally prepared for the emotional trauma this book was going to give us. Was I? No, I was not. For me, the highlight of this book was part one, specifically the first couple chapters when every page we turned, there was a new character that we have already known, we've already been introduced to. We got Katniss's parents' names, Budak, also what kind of name is what Budak, whatever. Astrid, Lenore Dove's connection to the Covey and Tam Amber, and all of that backstory, which apparently she's a Baird, so I have more thoughts. I'll probably get into another video of like how that is even possible. We also, at the very end of the book, I'm jumping forward, ADHD brain, follow with me. At the end of the book, we see Lucy Gray's grave. Now, my interpretation of that is quite literally she disappeared. They don't know what happened, so they gave her memorial. I still don't think that she died or came back. I think it's still a mystery, but that grave is a little piece of evidence to that. And then we also we see Beatty, we see Mags, we see Wirus, we see all of them. The fact that Haymitch literally bonds with all of them just for Katniss to go and bond with them again in Catching Fire, and that's what she wants for an ally. Oh my gosh, there's just so many full circles in this book that had my jaw completely dropped, completely on the floor. Let me know in this book what was your most jaw-dropping moment where like that connection was fully formed in your brain. I want to know. I'm sure there's others that I'm not mentioning here because I am just rapid fire ring. Let's go. Another thing we knew going into this book was going to be the big theme about media and propaganda. And we see this with Plutarch, our king of entertainment, which I really do love, like his teeter-tottering role here, as it seems to be he's the heir of the Plutarch fortune, but also feels trapped in this role that he has in the capital, trying to spark the rebellion, sees Haymitch as a great opportunity to do so, and runs forward with it. But he's also creating the narratives of all the stories because he's the head of entertainment and these propos, which we see him do again in Mockingjay, just what, 27 years later, 26 years later, somewhere around there. But again, one of the overarching themes that Suzanne really wanted to push in this book is how the media can really spin a narrative and completely contort a story, which I think the great job portraying that message. And I really like how, again, like we knew what happened in Haymitch's game from the Capitol's story of what they're spinning to the districts. We saw that through Katniss's perspective in Catching Fire. And I really love how at the end of this book, when they're doing the game's recap, Haymitch is watching that same version that Katniss and Peeta watch on the train, and he's like, no, 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 that's not how that happened. Like, this is different, and that is different. They don't even show this at all. Like, they completely cut out this narrative. I look like a jackass, and I look like I ditched all the tributes. Like, it are all of his allies. That's the word I'm for. He ditched all of his allies. And he's like, that's not what happened. They're changing the narrative to make me come off completely different. That's literally what the media, some media, does. And I've made this comparison before to like Bachelor Nation. I'm sure it's also on big reality shows like Big Brother and Survivor. And those big reality shows are never truly the narrative. It's never truly what actually happened. It's the story they're trying to tell for the entertainment or for, I don't know, media propaganda purposes are trying to spin a certain narrative. And the Capitol is always going to show the version where the Capitol is in control, the Capitol is strong, and the Capitol is the only one to listen to. even though, as we know from the games themselves, that's not the case. Haymitch pretty much had him around his finger a lot of this time, which I think is where some qualms come in with this book, because Haymitch literally like went down into like the bowels of the arena to set that bomb, and like nothing really happened to him. Ambert was targeted by the Mutts. Maisley was targeted by the Mutts after those peacekeepers were in the arena also trying to clean up that mess. And so was the other District 4 tribute. They were all targeted by Mutts specifically designed for them. Why didn't Snow dictate a Mutt specifically to get rid of Haymitch? Because that would have been so easy to do, and I feel like that would have solved a lot of his problems. And I get he has to survive the narrative of the story. I get that. But I think that's where like a little plot hole for me comes in, is that we're strategically and intentionally taking out tributes with a Mutt, but not Haymitch, unless Snow's ultimate punishment was that Haymitch sees all of his allies die and know that he is kind of the cause, because that continues to be his punishment after the games, is seeing all of his loved ones die and having to live with it. Thoughts out loud. Which also Lucy Gray continues to haunt the narrative, and there continues to be lots of preludes to Katniss and the right time. So it's really, really exciting to see. I loved all those moments. And I really loved how similar Haymitch and Katniss are. Seeing Haymitch at 16, and specifically like how he just acts without really thinking, but his full motive is to care for people who cannot care for themselves and the ones that he loves. Like that's all he's acting out of. Like he was, you know, not only supposed to be in the reaping, but because Lenore Dove had stood ground to help the mom who is grieving that her child just got shot, because he stands in the way of the peacekeepers getting Lenore, the one he loves, he gets reaped. Similar how Katniss stood in the way of Prim getting reaped, the one that she loves. Then we see so many alliances with 12-year-olds in this book. First with Lulu / Luella, which is just really, really sad and different conversation we'll dive into. But with his ally with Lulu, and just like, even though Lulu was not Luella, who like he loved, that was his original sweetheart, as we know, he still had this need to protect her because she was just a poor, brainwashed 12-year-old girl. And then we have Ambert, Beatty's son, who was in this. Oh, lots of trauma to unpack, my friends. But again, like he formed this connection with Ambert, and then at the very end with Willie, and he just has this need to just like protect all these young tributes. Very, very similar to Katniss, and I think that Haymitch and Katniss are two sides of the same coin. I made that joke talking about President Coin and Snow later, but I truly think they're two sides of the same coin, and that's why they hate to love each other so much. Very similar to his relationship with Maisley in this, because he, says like, she's like a sister to me. You fight with her and I fight for her. And that feels like his relationship with Katniss as well. Oh gosh, what else is there? What else is there? What else is there, Sunrise? What else? Other thoughts did I have? Some critiques, because no book is ever perfect unless you're Throne of Glass. But even then I have critiques of Throne of Glass. So some critiques I have of this book. And I think my biggest one is that there were some really stellar moments from Catching Fire, and I guess like the capital version of the games that we were first introduced to 10 years ago. And I'm specifically talking about that quote that Haymitch said when Caesar was like, we have 50% more tributes. How do you feel about that? And Haymitch is like, well, they're still, 100% just as stupid as they were before. So ours is the same. That little back and forth was so good and so Haymitch-like. But then in this, Suzanne had to kind of backtrack and fix it to align itself more with the narrative of Haymitch coming back to say like, oh, I'm talking about the careers, of course. And it just feels like the power that line had was just taken back by trying to fix itself to go with the narrative that Suzanne was writing for this book. So there were times when it felt like, here's the outline we have from 2014, and here's, the draft I have in 2024. We have to make them line up. Not even 2014. Dear God, that was like early 2000s. Late 2000s? I don't know. When did Catching Fire come out? I don't know when the book came out. It feels like Suzanne had a draft, a script, an outline from Catching Fire that she had to follow. Obviously, she couldn't contradict herself, which she did, and she accounted for it. but it felt like some things just didn't place in the narrative that she was writing in this book. So it could kind of feel like, okay, like you had to fix your line here, because she really paved a big path for her. Unlike Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, there was so much to Snow's lore that we did not know, so she really just could have fun with that narrative and build a lot off of it. Loved this book. I had to take it in small doses because it was a lot to go through. I couldn't just sit down and read it at once, because it was like, okay, emotional trauma, we're gonna keep going. I really loved young Haymitch, really spunky. I see moments of young Haymitch and old Haymitch. I say old, he's not old, he's matured Haymitch, and just life tearing him down and everything that happens at the end of the book. And it makes sense, like, why he pushed everyone away and like why he was alone, because he just came to this mindset of, anyone who loves me is dead, so no one can love me. Oh gosh, what other thoughts did I have? I had a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts, but don't you worry, because I will be making a full video, full analysis, full deep dive of this book when I've had more time to process. But when I just finished, I wanted to sit and I wanted to talk to you guys. I wanted to yap about it. What were your first impressions of the book? Did it meet your expectations? Did it not meet your expectations? What were your favorite parts? What were your least favorite parts? We'll talk, we'll discuss. If there's anything specific you want me to deep dive into in my analysis video, let me know in the comments below. Overall, really great read by Suzanne Collins. I will always read anything that she gives me. Like, please, Mom, keep feeding me even if I cry about it, and I will be emotionally traumatized for a very long time, and I will never be able to look at Haymitch the same way ever again. Stay tuned for more Hunger Games content. I have so much for you guys. I am deep diving into every single one of her books and doing full analysis. So if you just joined my channel, hi, welcome. I'm usually a lot more spunkier than this. I'm just like trauma dumping and traumatized. So we will loop in here soon. Don't you worry. And until that note, if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you finished Sunrise on the Reaping. So happy trails to you, my sweet friends, and we'll talk more about it soon. All right, on that note, guys, have a, I don't know, wonderful rest of your day if you're watching this. I'm not quite sure how to end this because it's happened so spontaneously, but love you guys and happy reading.